Coach Favouraruwei, the youngest billionaire business coach, is the founder of Wise Biz Institute, where she equips young adults, new mums, undergraduates and startups to build profitable, purpose-driven businesses. Rooted in faith, she believes that backgrounds don't define destiny. Only what God has spoken does. Her journey from a student budget to running a thriving business that reflects grace and growth. Through mentorship, trainings and conferences, she empowers young people to start early and create lasting impact. She convenes the Too Young, Too Strong conference, a clinical counsellor with an MSc in clinical therapy, the executive director of Anixco Ultimate Ventures, and CEO of Ivankina Essentials. She has authored New Mum's Smart Spending, Graduate as a Millionaire, and Start Smart, Build Smart. Connect with her on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube for practical business insights.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to Too Young, Too Strong Business Conference 2025 edition. I'm Favouraruwei, known as the youngest billionaire business coach. It's an absolute honor to launch the first edition of Too Young, Too Strong Business Conference. This isn't just a conference, it's a movement. It's a declaration that being a youth is not weakness, it's superpower. Being too young doesn't mean you are unready, it means that you are unstoppable. And your age is not a limitation, but being courage, creativity, and conviction. Wherever you are tuning in from, kindly know that you belong here because your voice matters, your ideas matters, and your presence is the proof that you are ready to shape the future. So let's begin, connect, grow, and make history. Welcome to Too Young, Too Strong Business Conference.
Is an accounting graduate and CFA charter holder with over 17 years of experience spanning treasury, money market, fixed income, corporate strategy, and now financial education. She is the founder of the Money With Club, the Money With School, and the Money With Media, a financial education ecosystem dedicated to empowering individuals with financial literacy, economic education, and access to opportunities. Through her work, Oler has impacted over 10,000 individuals across the world and provided financial education services to leading organizations including Shell Nigeria, Banwo, and Igodalo and Coronation. Please let's make welcome Oler Oladele.
Hello, everyone. Please confirm that you can see and hear me. Welcome, Abi. Let's say welcome. I'm excited to be here. I also have my slides if you can share it. I've uploaded onto the platform and all. So, okay. I believe you should be able to see my slides right now. I'm excited to be here, everyone. My name is Ola, and I used to be a securities trader. So if you know the Wolf of Wall Street, that's something that I used to do for my life. Like that's what I started my career doing. But after about 15 years in that, I moved on to providing financial education. And the simple reason for that was the fact that I found that a lot of people did not know the things that were very normal for me because that's how I started my career and all. And it was just something that everyone around me knew. So yes, my profile has been read. I run a financial education company, and we have a media expression, we have the community, and we have the school. In terms of media, we have a YouTube channel also where you can learn about investing. So I'll put the links up later on. These are some of the companies I've worked with. I've also been featured on the platforms on the right. Um, so let's talk about money, right? We all want to hear about money. And so we're talking about money. The first thing is why you should invest. So this is something that I want everyone to look at. It's something I created or developed. It's called the money cycle. It's an assessment of your finances, and everybody is in it. Everybody is in it. So if you want to download it and take and go through the cycle yourself, you can scan the barcode and you can download the PDF for yourself. But basically, it all starts with making money. At every junction, you have two options. When you make money, you can spend everything or you can save everything or do a mix and a match, right? And so you have two options: you spend, you save. If you make 100 naira and you spend 100 naira, what will happen is that your money cycle will be very short. So think of that person who, or your parents, for example, maybe some people, their dads will be cranky. Maybe payday is 24th. And then by 20th, everybody in the house is walking on eggshells. Why? Because the money has finished. They have to wait for a top up and they're all cranky, right? Those are the signs. Another thing also is that you're living on a keg of gunpowder, meaning that if something happens unexpectedly, you don't have anything to cushion that impact, right? That's what happens when your money cycle is short. But if, for example, you save, then you have a broader money cycle. When you save, you have two options: you leave it in the bank or you invest. If you leave it in the bank, what happens is that inflation will take it over. What do I mean by inflation? Imagine if your or just think about school fees, for example. Imagine if your parents gave you 500K 5 years ago and said this was your school fees, 100K a year, right, for your engineering course. And then fast forward to now, and school fees have skyrocketed. The government is talking about student loans, things that were unheard of, even for federal government schools. What am I saying? That 500K that would have carried you through 5 years is probably going to carry you through maybe 2.5, max 3 years. And what do you need to do, or what do your parents, between you and your parents, need to do? You need to go back to make more money. That's how it works. Now, if you leave some in the bank, but you also invest, then your money cycle is longer. But then you still have two options. If you invest, you can make profit or you can lose money. Of course, if you lose money, if you put money in MMM, if you put money in any of those things and the money disappears, or you did agri and the money disappeared, you know that you have to go and start again to start making more money, right? But if you invest and you make profit, there is a point you get to, and I'll talk about that as we go along, because that is the topic. That's what we're trying to achieve. That point where you get to where you are investing and making profit, and you don't need to exchange time for money anymore. Meaning you don't need to get a job, you don't need to do the money, the investment is funding your life. That is the goal, right? Now let's talk about borrowing. Um, People run away from borrowing, but the question is not about whether you should borrow or not. The question is, what are you borrowing for? If you are borrowing to buy hair, that means you are buying hair on credit, you are buying ashrebi on credit, you are doing your nails on credit, right? The fact is that that thing that you put the money in is not going to bring back money to you in the future. It's a dead end. It's consumption. That's the end, right? Such that for you to pay back that debt, you have to make more money. So when you borrow for consumption, it eats into your future income. But if you borrow, for example, to start a business, or you borrow to buy a property, right, the conversation becomes different, right? Such that that property's value, the rent from it can actually, you can use that to pay back the borrowing, the debts that you made, right? So the question is not about whether you should borrow or not. It's that, what are you borrowing for? Now, everybody's in this money cycle somewhere or the other in a mix of different things, which is why I said if you want to download it and assess yourself. Now, why are these boxes there? The boxes are there for you to say how much, if you make 100 naira, how much generally goes to spending, how much goes to saving. If it is 70%, right? So that's why I say insert a rough percentage of your ratios, then you can tell where your gaps are. If you invest and you lose 100%, you can tell where you have a problem that needs to be fixed because it's practical. Money is one of those things that if you are doing well or not doing well, the results are right in front of you. There's no hiding, right? So this is the money cycle. The first thing you need to understand is that we're all in this cycle, and the goal is that eventually you get to a point where you invest and make profit. You don't need to work anymore, and that is the goal. So how do you start investing? And it's very simple, right? Recognizing the opportunity, accessing the opportunity, and creating systems around this. What do I mean by that? Um, you might be walking past, in fact, let me not even go so far. You every time you see a bus driving by, right, and the driver of the bus is not, by bus I mean public transport bus, and the driver of the bus is not the owner of the bus, understand that is an investment opportunity, right? So the question is, how do you recognize opportunities around you because they're around you? How do you access it? So if I want to start that bus business, what are the licenses I need to get? What kind of bus registration do I need to do? Then creating systems around it. What do I mean by creating systems? So you have a driver. How do you ensure that the money that the driver makes comes to you? Because if you don't ensure that that money comes to you, you just dash somebody money, right? So those are the creating of the systems that we're talking about, right? So recognize the opportunity, access the opportunity, and create systems around this. Now I want to tell a quick story around this three things that I said. So one of the things that I do is that I have an investment community. Now, investment community is for senior execs, is for people that have done well, but they just don't know where to start investing, right? So in 2023, we brought a deal. So what we do is we bring deals in different countries around the world, different currencies, naira, everywhere around the world. And so we brought a deal, right, to the club, and it was a property deal, right, in Nairobi. The entry point was very low, right? Now, we brought the deal, we did the due diligence, we got the lawyers, blah, 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 and all that. We had a lot of due diligence to do, from legal to engineering, because it was a high rise block of flats. People were taking different apartments, studios, blah, blah, blah. Right? Now, fast forward to 2024, after people paid, they paid through a payment plan. Some people took loans. So we talked about that borrowing that we're talking about, that what are you borrowing for? And they paid off. Now, earlier this year, there was an announcement from United Nations that they were moving their head office staff from New York in America to Nairobi. That singular announcement that we might have seen in the news that seemed like, who cares? Based on that announcement, the value of property, the demand for rent in Nairobi skyrocketed. Why? Because there was an influx of people with dollars, and then properties that were going for like $30,000 are now going for like 60, upward of 70,000. So for the people that went on this transaction, who were just going in for rental, long term, blah blah blah, even in a year, the value of their investment has gone up. That just shows how investments work, right? And guess what? If you are able to do a lot of these things, right, you can get to a point where the rental from these things can bring you to a point where you don't need to work anymore, where you're working because you want to, not because you need to. Now, where do you start from? There are two things to start from. There's mindset and there's action. So when it comes to mindset, we see this apple, right? This apple, everybody eats an apple. When you finish, there's the core in the center, you throw it away. That's normal. But a farmer sees that same apple, sees the core, and is telling you, I want to plant these apples. I want to plant these seeds. When you finish, please share your seeds, keep your seeds, don't throw them away because I want to use them, right? And so you gather those seeds and you give it to your apple farmer cousin, right? And he plants these seeds. First year, it looks like nothing happened. Second year, you see something that just pops out there, right? But what happens for the farmer is that he gives it time and eventually becomes a tree. That tree will have leaves, it will now have apples. And then by the time you are done, after like 3 to 5 years, you have ripe apples that you can harvest. Now, you planted one seed. But the interesting thing is that when the apple tree grows and blossoms, it doesn't produce just one apple tree. It produces a full tree. that after you harvest for this year, the next year you would harvest again and the tree is still standing, right? So what are we talking about here? We're talking about this apple being the fruit of your labor. You go to work, you run your business, you make money, you exchange time for money. Remember the money cycle, it starts with making money. So when you make that money, what happens is that we eat it because we're supposed to enjoy our work. But the question is, are you eating everything or are you keeping some that can be the seed for the future? Then when you get the seed, are you leaving it idle in the bank or are you planting it? And when you plant it, are you planting it in the right environment? Are you giving it time? Are you or are you saying, oh, this amount that I am putting or this amount I'm getting from this one is too small, therefore I'm not going to do it. I want to do this one, and then in the end you lose the money. Does that sound familiar to you? So this is the mindset, right? The mindset of an apple tree, growing an apple tree, is that it requires time, it requires the right environment, it requires diligence, it requires you allowing it, and it requires that when the apples grow and they blossom, you don't go and cut down the tree. You don't say, oh, I invested in the first round and it's and the returns have come back to me. So I'll take the principal and the return and I will eat everything. Now, in this picture, what we also see is that we don't just see an apple tree, we see an orchard. How do you get to an orchard? You get to an orchard when, from that first tree that grows and the apples that pop up there, you take out the seed and begin to plant them around each other. It will take a while because it's not an overnight journey. So give yourself 3 to 5 to 7 years to 10 years. And what you will find is an orchard where you can now have an apple factory, you can have an apple pie store, you can have a juice making factory just from those same apples. But it takes a while, right? It does take a while for you to get something that is sustainable, right? So, oh, okay. One of the things, another example of this same Apple idea was that in 2021 we invested in a movie in the club, right? And I'm highlighting why investing is the way to actually building that financial power. We invested in the movie in the club. We invested in Naira. But when we got our returns back, we got those returns in USD, right? And why? Because we sold to video on demand companies that were outside of the country, and the payments were made over a 1 year period in USD. So if you think about how the currency devalued, right? And think about how some people invested in Naira and their returns came back in dollars in profit. In that particular transaction, we probably made in Naira terms about 7 times our money back. Meaning that if you put 1,000 Naira, you got 7,000 Naira back in Naira terms. That's an investment. Now, the fun fact is that you see that Nairobi property I talked about, there was some person in the club who literally started with the movie investment, then exited the movie investment at 7x and put that money in Nairobi investment. And then the Nairobi investment, the valuation has doubled. What am I saying? That's the orchard mindset where you are not pulling out the money you've made to eat it. You are keeping it in that system so that it is growing faster. That is the mindset that you need to build, right? And so in terms of action points, right? This is a simple sheet. We all know that we should save. The money cycle says we should save. If you save 50K a month, right? For the next 10 years, just 50K, you will have 6 million naira. If you are able to do 200K in the next 10 years, you might have 24 million. Now, because you're in Nigeria, I understand that the way that we shout billions in the news might make you feel like 24 million is small money. But if you can't lay claim to 24 million right now, it is big money. If you cannot shake your parents and they'll just randomly transfer 24 million naira to your account, then it is big money, right? Now, if you are 20 and you're going to work till you are 60 and you start with 50K, or let's say you are 25, you are going to work till you are 60. That's about 30 to 35 years, right? So let's put 30 years. It means that from doing nothing apart from putting 50K away, you would have 18 million naira chilling for you at retirement. And if you're able to do 200K, you have 72 million, which is beautiful money on all fronts. Now, when we talk about investing, imagine that 50K that you are saving monthly. You gather your 600K for the year, meaning 50K times 12 months. And so that 600K that you save every year, you invest it at 10%. 10% is not anything out of the ordinary in Nigeria. Just investing at 10%, instead of having 18 million in 30 years, you will have 98 million. And for doing 200K, instead of having 72 million, you have 394 million just on 10%. Now, this 10%, the same 10% that we all look at with disdain, saying that this rate is too low. I'm looking for 30 to 40%. And then you go for the 30 to 40% and your money disappears. But the person who is moving slowly like a tortoise and is thinking, oh, let me just do small, let me just be reinvesting, that person will get to their destination faster or to your goal faster, and you wonder how. So what are we saying here? Your mindset matters around this. What you think is speed sometimes might actually be slowing you down. But there's a slow and steady that honestly wins the race when it comes to investing and financial matters. It is called compound interest, right? It's the eighth wonder of the world. It only favors those who trust it to work. And the simple rule is this: reinvest your returns, don't spend it, and watch the market magic happen. So your action points after you doing your money cycle assessments, right? Because you need to assess where your own gap is, where you have your strengths and your weaknesses. The second action point is what savings account are you going to be using to start your savings journey today? Now, you have seen how 50K can pile up. If it's just 10K, start the journey of 10K. Remember that the 50K person may start with 50K, and then 2-3 years down the line, one job change, one, something or the other, and they can jump to 200K in the next 2 years. But they've started the journey, right? So for you now, how much can you save, and where are you going to start saving that money? What bank account are you going to start using to pile up? So what does what does financial empowerment look like, right? We can see a bungalow, we can see a high rise there. If it was an active session like on a Zoom call, I would have asked people for the difference between the two of them, and I would want to see in the charts. But if you are seeing the charts on YouTube, just drop the differences that you see between the bungalow and a high rise. I can tell you some. A bungalow is very is small, it's cozy, it's not very complex. Between the owner of the land and a builder, bricklayer, you can build this whole thing and be done in 3 months. But for the high rise, you have not even finished doing foundation in those 3 months. It might take you 6 to 9 months to a year to just lay the foundation. The level of detail that is required for the high rise looks like a lot. If somebody says they are building a bungalow, start to finish, they can finish in 3 months. But if you see somebody building a high rise, you would ask the person in 3 months, what are you even doing? Is anything happening? We can't see anything, because nothing will be showing. It will just look like you are pouring sand into the ground, or you are pouring money into the ground and nothing is happening. In terms of attention to detail also, there's so many details. Just one floor, the wiring of the floor, the making sure that the elevator, the electrical network, the blah, blah, blah for the high rise. Thank you, Agogo. Thank you. Thank you. I see that feedback. The high rise, the details, right? The details, everything. There's so much detail attached to it. But for the bungalow, it's very easy. And guess what? The bungalow is easy for you to pull down. Just get a tractor and it will just bulldoze it, and that's the end. But you see this high rise, to take it down, what do you need to do? You have to go and get government approval. You will not just get government approval to take it down. You have to get engineers that would use bombs to take it down. What am I saying? I'm talking about finances here. So for building a skyscraper, it takes strategy, it takes skill to build, it takes skill to bring it down, it takes attention to detail, it requires a lot of time. But eventually, it will cover the skyline. Nobody will be able to disagree. Nobody will be able to say that we cannot see this building. It becomes visible. So what am I saying when it comes to finances? I'm saying that there's a way to build and build quickly, and it appears overnight, but we can take it down quickly. It doesn't require as much skill. It just requires you to be sharp. Just jump in. Let's do it. And there's also a way that you can build that it will be slower, painstaking, but it will stand the test of time. You know that if you are in Lagos, for example, there is the Union Bank building. Union Bank building is at least 50 years old. They cannot take down that building. All they do is renovate, make it look finer, upgrade it, do interior, blah, blah, blah. But the amount of bungalows that have been bulldozed in 30 seconds, 31 minutes, 1 hour, just in that same period, you can't measure. So the question is, what kind of foundation, what kind of building when it comes to wealth do you want to have? And are you trying to own, or do you want to own a skyscraper, but you are building with a bungalow mentality? That's the question. Thank you, Tosan, right? The fact is, your mindset and what you are doing, your actions are telling where you are going. Because if you are looking for sharp, sharp, it's okay. Oh, sharp, sharp is okay, but sharp, sharp may not stand the test of time. I'm using may nicely. It will not stand the test of time. But when you do things that are solid and would stay over time, even to take it down, it will be hard. Just think of a Dangote with his refinery. Even if you want to shut it down right now, it will be hard. It will be hard. So how are you thinking, short or long, right? So now let's talk about viable investment. I've highlighted this already, that there are investment opportunities all around you, right? You see a mall, you see ShopRite, you see all those things. Before you came into the store to buy, somebody put money in to raise that structure. It's an investment. You see a delivery guy, it's an investment. You see street food mama put by the road. Before she could come and sell to you, somebody bought the pot, somebody bought the oil, somebody put money for the rice, or maybe she took the rice on credit, right? But somehow or the other, something went in before you came to buy. So you can also see street food, you can see delivery, and you can see fine dining. All three are investment opportunities. So the question is, what opportunities are you seeing around you that you are working away from, or you're not aware of, and the person is cleaning out, and the person is going to meet other people for capital while you are there with your 100K or your 50K? That's the first mindset. It's all around you. But there are two ways you can make money. You can either give loan or you can give equity. Now, why am I highlighting this? Because we see a lot of things around us that we don't really understand. And that's really why I left because what I used to do was I used to trade assets. I would trade fixed income, I'll trade money market, I'll trade Naira, right? And then at a point I moved to raising financing. So those things that I was trading, I was issuing them. Do you get? I was managing portfolios. That's what I've done. And I'm a CFA charter holder. So I've read the book to support it, if you get my point. But I realized that a lot of people say there's nothing to invest in. And I'm like, there are more investment opportunities than the money you have. Just even go to the stock market, you can finish all your money there. All your money. Local, global stock market, you can finish your money. So there are two ways you make money. One is that you give them your money, you are expecting your money back with some interest. The other one is that you give them your money and then you are praying that the company will grow, where you can either exit or you get dividends, but your capital doesn't come back to you, say, oh, I've paid you off, and that's the end. So if it's long term, it's called fixed income. That's why you see your bonds and stuff. If it's short term for borrowing, then it's money market. So your fixed deposit, treasury bills, commercial papers, those are those things. And there are opportunities there around you. But when you come to equity, I'm sure you've heard of venture capital. I'm sure you've heard of private equity. These are buzzwords, startup investing, right? It's equity investing. If the company goes down, everybody goes to bed. That's the end. But if the company does well, everybody is aligned and everybody grows along with it, right? So if the company is matured, it's called private equity investing. If the company is young, venture capital, those are where your startups fall under. That's venture capital investing. So these are things that you see around you, but I'm just explaining so that you understand that even before you go to the mama puts around you, that or the woman that is selling puff puff and say, okay, you have one pot, let's have two pots, since we see that people always come every day and you say it has finished, so can we expand? That is an investment, and it might just be 50K. Do you understand? And you just agree, that's, I said, identifying the opportunity, accessing it, and then creating a structure. Your structure to her might be, after all that she sells, she transfers 10K to you every day. Bam, deal closed. Get a witness. right? And then equities, under equities, if it's on something that's on the exchange, so we all know Nigerian Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, that's what it's about. It's equity. If the company goes down, that's the end for everyone. Right now, what I want to highlight here is that we've seen all sorts of things, advertisement from asset management firms about funds. But what they are is basically that you don't know what a stock is. You don't know which stock to buy. You don't know which bond to buy. But the asset manager is skilled in that, right? So the asset manager creates an equity fund. What are they investing in? They are investing in equity, they are investing in stocks. Or they create a private equity fund or the venture capital fund. Basically, what they are doing is that they are gathering people's money together to invest in that particular asset. So anytime you see a fund, just look at the words in front of it. The words in front of it tell what that fund is investing in, if you get my point. So just know that I hope we are learning something. I hope this is making sense, because I know I'm running and I'm not seeing I'm not seeing activity and all, you know. So yes, and also exchange traded funds is the same thing. So the highlight here is there are more investment opportunities than you have money for, but it all starts with the fact that they are all around you. So what are the things that you need to avoid in this journey to financial power? Lifestyle inflation. I literally had a one-on-one session with someone earlier today, and he was talking about how his salary doubled in October last year, but now he's more broke than how he was before that salary increase. And I was like, you are not alone. It is a real problem. The problem for him was a lot of black tax, where he's like, I've not increased anything that I'm doing. What I find is that people just come, and because I have more money, I just feel like, okay, take. And then in the end, I'm actually broke. You need to avoid that. I need to avoid it at all costs. You need to be guided when it comes to black tax. It is fine to support your family members. I'm not saying you shouldn't support them. But what I'm saying is that put them in a structure, put them in a system, have your own goals, right? Don't say that your salary increased from 1 million to 2 million, and then your lifestyle increased from 1 million to 2 million at the same time. You will find that you won't have savings. You still be living on the keg of gunpowder. You'll still be under pressure when it's payday. You won't have any investment. Can you just see a lot you need to avoid there? The second thing is over trading. Thank you for the feedback. The second thing is over trading, going into debts. That is where you queue in your taking hair on credit, taking clothes on credit, buying a phone on credit, all those things. Please just avoid them. They are eating into your future wealth. Another thing is not considering you in the equation. What do I mean by that? The fact is that there might be two people. One is the firstborn of 10 children, and the other one is the lastborn of 10 children. The lifestyle of the firstborn of 10 children whose parents are struggling is different from the lifestyle of the person who is lastborn and is a proper lastborn, like the classic lastborn, the kind of lastborn everybody wants to be. Why? Because pressures are different. So whenever you are making decisions, don't learn. Thank you for the feedback. I see them rolling in. Don't ever don't Personal finance is personal. So when you're making your decisions, make them in a way that suits you and aligns with your own reality, not what aligns with other people's reality. And then you now hang. Or, for example, you are planning to go to school, so you're saving for school. Someone now comes with the property deal. The property deal, the land deal is good, it's cheap, but you're going to school. You now say, oh, let me just quickly, you now enter the land deal, your money now hangs there. It now goes also to FOMO driven investing, fear of missing out, right? So for you, thank you for that feedback. Thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate it. So for you, fear of missing out is a thing. You have to be very aware of it, because it will make you do what you don't understand. Another thing is putting all your eggs in one basket. One of the major things that I find, especially with people that as they start to invest, is that because of their comfort zone, a lot of people do a lot of real estate. I want to buy land. I want to own land. It's not bad in itself, but understand that real estate is illiquid, meaning that the day you want cash, you can't fall back on your property. So as you are doing your real estate, do other types of assets. And I have stories upon stories of how people have gotten caught on that real estate thing, where you actually need your cash, but you can't sell. You now have to take a loan when you have an asset. So yeah, put all your eggs in one basket. Another thing also is ignoring the environment, right? I remember someone came reaching out to me. There was a time when the central bank was really clamping down on crypto, blah 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 blah, and someone reached out to me to invest in a cryptocurrency startup in Nigeria. And I told the person, go and register your company abroad. Why are you registering in Nigeria? Nigeria is fighting crypto. Why would I go against the government? And the person insisted. And then all of a sudden, the company had been, their bank account was frozen. Was it not obvious? Was it not obvious? Why are you trying to go to jail? Why are you trying to go to jail? you know, another thing also is walking alone. I realized that a lot of people, especially in African culture, we tend to code, and we code for understandable reasons like the security, blah blah blah. So if you have money, you don't want the next person to know that you have money. But in that, what happens is that people also go into things they should not go into because they don't want the code, and then in the end the thing now hangs, and then it just now start coming out in trickles. What is my recommendation? Find somebody that is doing what you want to do. Then you can talk to the person, because for example, if you want to buy a property in Lekki and you're talking to someone that has bought a property in Lekki, we know the value of property in Lekki, so both of us know that we have that kind of money. Do you understand? Don't go and talk to someone that has property in Ogun State about property in Lekki. But at the minimum, don't be quiet. Don't code yourself into problems. There's always information. Also, learn how to ask without giving off so much information. But most importantly, do not shut up. And the final thing is not investing. If you do not invest, inflation will have you for lunch. That's just it. So, in summary, keep your seed, find the right location, find the right soil, sow the seed, give it time, harvest, and then sow more seeds. That is the principle, right? And so, that massive thing that you want to build, see, you can do quick like the bungalow, but hey, the outcomes that you get is what you get, and there's nothing anybody can do to help you. So, thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them right now. This is the barcode for my YouTube channel and then for my Substack also. If you are looking to learn more about investing and blah blah blah, you can scan both of them and all, and you can learn more from us. So any questions, I'm happy to take questions now. Thank you for the feedback. Oh no, I did not say real estate is not a good investment. I was talking about real estate in the context of not putting all your eggs in one basket. So I listed out investment opportunities, right? If you're looking, you would have seen them. Let me go back. See them. These are opportunities. These are opportunities. Funds, debt, so you can do bonds, fixed deposits, blah blah blah. So Providence, tell about stocks and shares. You have to ask a specific question so I can give you a specific answer, because I've talked about shares under public equity here. As a young entrepreneur expanding with, thank you, but as a I am a young entrepreneur expand his business without making the wrong decision. Sorry, can you ask a specific question? I'm not sure what the question is. If you can clarify what the question is. What if you share a business idea with someone and they end up starting that business before you because they have more money than you? That's the risk. It's a risk. The only thing I would say about that is, so I'm in the financial education space, right? But there are other people in financial education space. But am I different? Yes. Do they have the background that I do? No. Do they have their own specific background? Yes. So is there a way that I'm delivering this that is different from them? Yes. So even if you give someone an idea, the sky is open for everyone. If your idea was so unique, there's a part of it that should be yours alone. What do I mean by that? There's a part of it that this is my secret sauce. You can't do this the way I do it. Do you get? Please, how can someone avoid lifestyle inflation? By discipline. So what I told the guy that I had the session with earlier today, I told him, you are living on, I'm using random numbers here. You were living on 1 million naira. You were able to save on 1 million naira last year. Now you are earning 2 million naira. The first thing that you do when you get your salary every month is to move that 1 million out, the 1 million on top, move it out and go back to living on the 1 million you were living on before. Because even with Nigeria inflation, blah, 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 you were fine and you were saving on 1 million. But the reason why you thought, oh, there's more money, blah, 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 is because you're happy, right? So go back to living on that 1 million. Set up a direct debit to an investment account or to somewhere that you can't easily access and just move it out and just start with that so that you are not trying to be disciplined. You created a structure, right? Around your savings so that lifestyle inflation does not creep up on you. Is it advisable to borrow to fund a startup business as a first timer in business? So I would answer like this: borrowing is risky. The thing about borrowing is that it's different from when someone puts equity into your business. If I borrow you 100 naira to buy this pen, whether or not the pen produces 120 for you to pay me back 100, you owe me 100. Such that whether the business goes well or not, you have to go and produce my 100 naira. That is the risk of a startup. So I have to produce my 100 naira in the time that was agreed. Because the business may be doing well, but the business may not have gotten to the point where you can pull out 100 naira. So be very guided when you want to use debt for startup. The natural thing is for you to use equity, get your family members to support you, grants, charity, blah, 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 right? So that you are not under duress at the start. Because if you become illiquid, the business shuts down, whether or not it is viable. What can we do in a city? Oh, I missed that last question. I'm a hairstylist and I own a beauty brand where I sell beauty and fashion items. How do I make my business marketable for investors? So the way you make your business marketable for investors, because what we do in the club is that we actually review investment opportunities and then we invest in businesses or we invest in companies. You make your business viable by number one, showing your proof of concept, showing your strategy, showing your structure. If you are still collecting money in your personal accounts, if you're not doing your government filings, you are not showing seriousness, right? So that kind of structure is important. And that thing also, and then on the back of that structure where everything goes into a particular bank account, the fact is this: you can now have books. Even if you're not creating books, the day you give an accountant your bank statement, he can create books for you. That shows that you are serious. Then also in terms of your growth strategy, what are your plans for growth and in what market? How well have you done with what you have had before? Those are the things that investors want to see. What can we do in a situation where our returns or profit exceeds our daily expenditure? How do we save to reinvest our returns into where our returns or profit exceed our daily expenditure? And that's a good place. If your returns or profit exceed your expenses, then the balance, invest it. Isn't that it? Except if I don't understand the question. Is it wrong to neglect your God-given talent while focusing on developing other skills or career just because they seem more profitable? What can be said about that? I think it's relative. What is your God-given talent? What really is your God-given talent? If your God-given talent is singing and you are singing in church, are you not using it? If you are singing in church, but you work in a 9 to 5, is that not viable? So don't bring yourself under judgment, right? The Bible says that he that does not work should not eat. So if you are doing something honorable when it comes to work, then you are giving yourself license to eat. Now, when it comes to your talents, there are different talents that you will use at different times under different expressions. If your talent is singing, right, and but then you are not inclined towards creating an album and blah blah blah, but you're using it in church, that's talent. Now go and get a job. What investment can somebody go into with 20K? You can buy stocks, you can go into the funds I talked about. You can also do Nigerian savings bonds with that. You can also buy US stocks with that 20K. What else can you do? You can do any of those things, real estate, venture capital, blah, blah, blah. All of them have funds that with 5,000 naira you can start, right? There are even some of these land what's it called, land group purchase where you contribute over time, right? That's also another option. Is insurance a safe investment? It depends on what you're calling insurance, because there's car insurance, there's health insurance. So which insurance? Or are you saying insurance products? If an insurance company comes to you with an insurance product, then it is an investment. But whether it is safe depends on the company that is bringing in the investment. Can I invest in my mother's business? I feel I want to expand her business, turn it into a family business. It's your choice. It's your choice. But invest in it as a business, not for sentiment. If you want to do sentiment, dash out the money. Do you get? But if you say investing, think of it as a proper investment and do what needs to be done. I think my time is up. I didn't give any recommendations when it comes to property, right? If you have a specific question, ask. But I didn't give any specific recommendation. I just used real estate as an example. So if you have a question around real estate, ask like a direct question. But I think my time is up. So I think I'll be handing over to the host. Thank you so much. I'm not even sure how to.
Woo! Like honestly, I feel like I'm lack of words right now because all the things you said, I've jotted down. Investment, here I come. So guys, ensure you're part of it. Let me check a bit. If you know your numbers are not in the chat box, you're missing out. So ensure you get your numbers in the chat box so we can actually have a free and fair selection. So wherever you are, you're joining, you're streaming, ensure you don't miss out. This is a life-changing experience. Today we've not even done today, and I feel like wow, so much has left us, and but